Hey everybody, welcome to Vince on a Friday. Great to have you with us, the best audience anywhere. We've got a big show ahead for you. A bunch of seditious Democrats have been called out for advocating for sedition, and now they're mad that you noticed. I've got the details on all of that ahead. Also, Eric Swalwell announced that he's running for governor of California. Of course, he made the announcement on a comedy show because he's a joke. I've got the details on that and so much more. It's actually a crazy news week, a crazy end to a crazy news week. We'll get into all the revelations coming up here on this program. It is always so great to spend some time with you. Thank you for being here. By the way, if you are watching the podcast or if you're listening to the podcast, wherever you're getting it, please make sure you're liking, subscribing, and sharing so a lot more people can get access to it. It helps us out, and I think it helps the country out too, actually. So I appreciate all the great work that you guys do to help make this show as big as humanly possible. Thank you for that. Thank you also to our sponsors, the great sponsors of this program. That includes Beam. Beam, you know they have their cyber sale going on right now? Beam's cyber sale. Right now, it's their best offer of the whole friggin' year. Right now, you get up to 50% off with my code, VinceShow. You can grab Dream. You want a Dream? You can grab it for just $32.50. That breaks down to only $1.08 per night for the best sleep of your entire life. Go to shopbeam.com/VinceShow. Use my code VinceShow. Don't miss out. It's the lowest price Dream has ever been sold anywhere, and it's likely to sell out pretty quickly, actually. Dream is packed with delicious ingredients that your body actually needs to sleep, including reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and yes, melatonin, but not like that crappy drugstore garbage that'll knock you out and leave you groggy. No, it's finely tailored. It's perfect for you. Now's the time. Beam is giving you the ultimate Patriot discount. Go to shopbeam.com/VinceShow. Use the code VinceShow and get up to 50% off during Beam's cyber sale. You can grab Dream for just $32.50, but here's the catch. Dream's only available at this price until it sells out. So seriously, think about it. How much do you want to pay for a truly great night of sleep? How about $1.08 a night with Beam's cyber price? Go to shopbeam.com/VinceShow and try Beam today. The President of the United States has done it again. He's done it again. What an amazing ability President Trump has to force the American legacy news media to cover the things that he thinks are important to our country. And this week, one of the things that's very important to our country is that we have Democrats who are openly advocating for sedition. What is sedition, you ask? Sedition is when you try and incite an insurrection against the lawful authority of the United States. And Democrats this week, in the form of this idiotic social media video that they put together, were calling on America's military, America's troops, to reject the orders of the President of the United States. Now, of course, they've dressed this up in all sorts of language. Oh, no. We just meant illegal orders. Oh, really? You never named any. You just said that President Trump is lawless and that troops need to reject him. That's what you did, you disgusting scumbags. Here is, once again, the elected Democrats this week who were spreading vague conspiracy theories and urging the troops to reject the commander-in-chief. Watch.
Speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk. This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us.
No, they're not. All right, enough of that crap. We played it enough earlier this week, but I just wanted to remind you, that's the video, that's the predicate to all of this. Those guys released a video where they said, we're military veterans. We're intel community veterans. I was in the CIA, says Alyssa Slotkin. So you've got to listen to me, members of the military, and you have to reject the President of the United States. That, ladies and gentlemen, that's sedition. It's as simple as that. That's sedition. And these guys did this, and what did the media do with that? Well, they pretended it didn't happen. The press ignored one of the biggest stories of the entire week as those elected Democrats were trying to create some very devastating and, in fact, existential chaos in the United States. The media ignored it, but President Trump did not. And in his own way, he was able to make the media focus on it yesterday. And here's how. The president goes to Truth Social and he reacts to this yesterday morning with the following statement. He said, "This is really bad and dangerous to our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors. Lock them up? ? President DJT." And he didn't stop there. After that, President Trump threw one more truth grenade into asshole HQ. That's right. Wake up every day, throw a grenade into a-hole HQ. Here's President Trump yesterday with the following post to Truth Social. This is the one that got them animated. You ready? "Seditious behavior punishable by death." Uh-oh. Now we've got to cover it. Now it's a story about Donald Trump. Donald Trump's so crazy. He's out of control. He wants to kill members of Congress. All of a sudden, now the entire American news media, the legacy press, everybody is covering this story. After ignoring the sedition of these Democrats all week, they have decided their jumping in point is now to try and attack the president of the United States for being some sort of lunatic. He's completely out of control. Now, let me remind you of a couple of basic details before we get into the chaos of what the media attempted to do starting yesterday. One thing is very clear. The president's not wrong. The president's actually completely right. Under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UCMJ, death is a potential punishment for sedition. So, in other words, seditious behavior, including encouraging members of the military, which is, of course, what they were doing. It's not just about members of Congress. If you're encouraging members of the military to engage in sedition, in treason, understand that in a real country, there are real consequences for that. And under the UCMJ, death is actually one of them. So when President Trump just posts something true like he did yesterday, seditious behavior is punishable by death, it's not a cause to go apoplectic. It's a cause to say, yeah, he's right. Consequences for that kind of behavior are out of control. It's true. That is true. And so as a result, don't be seditious. Don't be treasonous. So the real story is what the Democrats are up to. That's it. That's all this is. And President Trump, in his own amazing way, has forced attention on a genuinely important story in the United States. So how did that happen? Well, President Trump posted that. Seditious behavior punishable by death. And then Senator Alyssa Slotkin immediately, along with the rest of these idiot Democrats, started filming sanctimonious selfie videos to whine about how they're the true victim of this sequence of events. Watch. Here's Alyssa Slotkin yesterday. Take a look.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin, senator from Michigan, former CIA officer. Earlier today, President Trump threatened myself and a number of other service and veteran lawmakers with arrest, trial, and death because he didn't agree with a video we put out this week. This really isn't about those of us who made the video. This is about who we are as Americans and how we're going to engage with people who we disagree with. I would hope that people of all backgrounds, Democrat, Republican, Independent, would agree that threatening death for people you disagree with is beyond the pale of who we are as Americans.
I love it. Okay, so here's the
It has
moralizing.
given me
There's Alyssa Slotkin. She's moralizing. She's sanctimonious. She's pretending she's got the moral high ground. I'm so virtuous. You know what, chick? Earlier this week, you were the one who were telling the troops to start ignoring the orders of the president of the United States. And they play these stupid word games. They're like, oh, no, we just said ignore illegal orders. They didn't bother to name a single one. They just kept planting in the minds of the troops that they can ignore these guys. Ignore Donald Trump. Don't follow his orders. And this is what Democrats do all across the country. Think about it. The president has been trying to restore law and order everywhere in the United States of America. And what have the Democrats done in the face of that? They've obstructed. They've actually tried to impede the resumption of law and order in the United States. They've established sanctuary cities. They reject Immigration Customs Enforcement, they attack ICE officers as they try and do their jobs. Congresswomen like LaMonica McIver are actually assaulting ICE officers as they do their jobs. As the president tries to deploy the National Guard to rescue American cities, Democrats are trying to stop him. So every time the president is trying to do something lawful and just for the United States of America, Democrats are not only sowing the seeds of discontent, but they're actually acting as, in some cases, physical obstructions to law and order prevailing. So when Democrats, the same party that constantly obstructs law and order, then turn around and tell the troops, hey, you're allowed to ignore the orders of the president of the United States if they're illegal, they don't bother to tell you what's illegal because they believe everything Donald Trump does is illegal, or at least they pretend it is. And so the Democrats are on a very hot streak of destructive behavior right now. And this video that they put out this week is a part of that. But again, the media were ignoring it until President Trump rolled that grenade into A-hole HQ yesterday. Thank God. Here's the media yesterday saying, does Donald Trump want to execute members of Congress? Take a look. Cut 3. Watch.
This morning, President Trump accused 6 Democratic lawmakers of seditious behavior punishable by death. Just to be clear, does the president want to execute members of Congress?
No. Let's be clear about what the president is responding to, because many in this room want to talk about the president's response, but not what brought the president to responding in this way. You have sitting members of the United States Congress who conspired together to orchestrate a video message to members of the United States military, to active duty service members, to members of the national security apparatus, encouraging them to defy the president's lawful orders. The sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos. And that's what these members of Congress who swore an oath to abide by the Constitution are essentially encouraging. And so these members knew what they were doing. They were leading into their credentials as former members of our military, as veterans, as former members of the national security apparatus to signal to people serving under this commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, that you can defy him and you can betray your oath of office. That is a very, very dangerous message. And it perhaps is punishable by law. I'm not a lawyer. I'll leave that to the Department of Justice and the Department of War to decide.
Sweet Caroline. Ba, ba, ba. All right, so Caroline Leavitt crushing it yesterday as usual and saying, yeah, you want to talk about the real story here? It's these Democrats who are trying to create chaos in the United States of America. How dare they? And then they wrap themselves in the uniform that they once wore and pretend that they stand on the side of virtue, while instead they're just advancing chaos. Disgusting people, and they should find a sense of shame and remember the oath that they once swore to the Constitution as they seek to undermine it now. And now, the big thing here is like, you want to try and escape on these technicalities, like, we said illegal orders. Have you noticed again? They never said anything that Trump did that was illegal. Caroline Leavitt highlighted this yesterday. President Trump hasn't given any illegal orders. Take a look at Caroline.
Caroline, can I just follow up? The president and the vice president, for that matter, have accused the other side of encouraging political violence. Isn't that exactly what the president is doing when he says that members of Congress should be killed?
Why aren't you talking about what these members of Congress are doing to encourage and incite violence? They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members not to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders.
Actually,
every single
you can refuse an illegal order, which
but
is
they're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful. And the courts have proven that. This administration has an unparalleled record at the Supreme Court because we are following the laws. We don't defy court orders. We do things by the books. And to suggest and encourage that active duty service members defy the chain of command is a very dangerous thing for sitting members of Congress to do. And they should be held accountable. And that's what the president wants to see.
God bless Caroline Levitt. Caroline Levitt telling the truth yesterday from behind the lectern in the White House press briefing room, as usual. And look, she's not the only one who's saying this. Some of the Democrats who were involved in creating this stupid, seditious video are admitting that very thing. Here's the idiot congressman from Colorado. His name is Jason Crow. I think people say he was in the Army. Somebody in the chat told me yesterday he's a veteran of the Girl Scouts. Was it the Brownies? Anyway, Jason Crow was on television yesterday, and he admitted that President Trump hasn't made any unlawful orders at all. Cut 5, watch.
So are you saying that there was not necessarily any particular precipitating event? There is no specific thing out there that made you decide now is the right time?
That's right. To be clear, we are not calling on folks right now to disobey any type of unlawful order. Right? There is very real and deep concern about what this president has threatened to do over and over again. There are 3 more years left of this administration. If we are not talking about this and having a conversation about it and demystifying this conversation, then we are not fulfilling our duty. We are reminding people that have taken the oath what that oath requires of them to do.
So, again, this is like the second day in a row we've had a video like this. The Dr. Evil Voice dude, Jason Crow, admits that nothing actually happened. There is no basis for this, that they're fear-mongering for no reason. They're sowing division for no reason. Thanks, Dr. Evil. Appreciate your contributions to this conversation.
$1 million.
$1 million. Oh my goodness. I can't even believe it. Well, I can actually. I really can. Yeah, so that's the state of play right now. And this doesn't happen if President Trump doesn't make it happen. You know what I mean? There's a fellow called David Marcus. He's a columnist for Fox News, and I saw he had a great X post on this subject yesterday. And Chuck Schumer is being, let's be crystal clear, the president of the United States is calling for the execution of elected officials. This is an outright threat, said Chuck Schumer. And David Marcus responded with the following analysis. He said, this is yet another example of what I call Trump's incendiary common sense tactic. He saw the liberal media was ignoring this absurd call for the military to disobey orders. So he said something over the top to draw attention to it. It's undefeated. Now, you can quibble all you want with over the top, but you can't quibble with the basic point here. Trump's incendiary common sense tactic. President, again, rolls the grenade into asshole HQ, and suddenly everybody's talking about it. It's President Trump with the laser pointer. The media suddenly obsessing over every word that's coming out of his mouth. What does he mean? What does he mean? The president makes the press run in the direction that he wants them focused. He's doing it actually with Epstein this week too, remember? They kept trying to make it his problem. He turned it around and said, you want to make it my problem? How about this? We're going all in on Epstein. And guess who owns this thing? Democrats. Because they're disgusting. They're disgusting. Good to have the president doing that. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Appreciate you for that and so much more. We've got a lot to get to today, in addition to these seditious Democrats who are truly out of control. We also have Democrats who are being charged by the United States Department of Justice. I told you about a Congresswoman, Cherphyllis McCormick. Her name's Cherphyllis McCormick, charged earlier this week with stealing a lot of disaster funding, $5 million in disaster funding. And if she gets convicted, she's looking at upwards of half a century in jail. She's finally speaking out about the indictment. You will not be shocked, but you will be appalled by the words that are coming out of her mouth as she's now being charged by the United States Department of Justice. That's ahead on this mighty edition of Vince. Coming up. Every once in a while, someone creates something that feels very big. It feels bigger. Something that isn't just another Hollywood reboot or a tired remake, but a real story built on courage, faith, and meaning. And that's exactly what the Daily Wire has done with their bold new 7-part series. It's called The Pendragon Cycle, The Rise of Merlin. This thing is awesome. It's inspired by the acclaimed book series by Stephen R. Lawhead. This epic retelling of the classic King Arthur legend brings fresh life to a timeless tale. The first official trailer just dropped, and I'm telling you, you want to watch this trailer. It is so amazing. It is really good. You're going to watch the trailer and you're like, I got to watch the whole thing. In this world, pagan gods fall silent, empires crumble, and chaos reigns. Yet in the midst of darkness, one man's visions ignite the rebirth of a civilization. Merlin becomes the bridge between myth and history, shaping the destiny of kings and the future of nations. The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, premieres exclusively on Daily Wire Plus, January 22nd of 2026, coming up. Watch the full trailer right now at dailywire.com to experience the beginning of a legend. And I was just talking with one of the guys, one of my good friends over at the Daily Wire, Brent Scher. This week I ran into him at the Dow Awards, and I was like, hey, dude, I'm going to be telling people about this Pendragon Cycle series. The trailer looks awesome. He goes, man, you have to see it. It is so good. And he admitted to me, I don't even think he wants me to tell you this, but he admitted, he's like, I wasn't sure it was going to be great. And then I watched it. I was stunned by how good it is. It's really good. It's really good. The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin. I can't wait to see it. Really excited as well. Wanted to let you know about that. Thank you to the Daily Wire for supporting our program. And we definitely support great works of art. Thank you for putting that together. Okay, let's see. I've got this news. Yeah, so we've got Cherfilus McCormick, this congresswoman. Her name's Sheila Cherfilus McCormick, and she was indicted for stealing $5 million of your money, FEMA money. And she's dealing with it this week. It was interesting to me because in the hours right after the indictment, she went silent. She just did not say a word about any of this. But she did become the latest Democrat indicted by the Trump administration's Department of Justice. For years, Democrats, of course, have gotten away with crimes and have not faced any prosecution whatsoever. Well, times have changed pretty dramatically. And now their crimes are catching up with them. Cherfilus McCormick, now charged stepping up to a microphone and some cameras to issue a terse little statement yesterday. Here is what she had to say for herself. Pay attention to the ludicrous explanation for why she's being charged.
Thoughts on the indictment, please?
Well, it's an unjust indictment, and it seems like these intimidation tactics have been pervasive. We spent all week seeing different members getting censured, all in hopes of intimidating and kind of distracting from the Epstein files. And I look forward to my day in court so I can prove myself and actually state the truth. But if this is what Congress is becoming, where they're always trying to intimidate you, scare tactics, especially attacking minorities, black and brown people, then we're going to have to keep fighting for the district. And everybody has been giving me so much support, and we're going to keep fighting until the district gets what it needs, which is fair prices, housing, and fair representation of Congress.
Did
so
you
thank you so
improperly
much.
What's your response to the calls from some of your colleagues to step down or resign?
They didn't elect me. It was my district, and so we'll keep fighting for the people and keep working like we're doing now until they get what they need. So we're here for the people. So the only people who elected me should make that decision. Thank you so much.
The chat's all over this. The chat is all over. We're all on the same. I love you people so much because I think we're just also dialed in on this. The race card. The race card. So she's got nothing else to play in her deck. Nothing else to play. And she plays the lamest, most useless card imaginable in 2025. I'm being attacked because of my skin color. I saw somebody say yesterday in reaction to this video, and God bless him for it, it's such a smart point. She's not being attacked because of the color of her skin. She's being attacked. She's being prosecuted because of the content of her bank account. She stole $5 million from the taxpayer, prosecutors say. And now she's being prosecuted for it. They were laundering the money, says the indictment, trying to hide the fact that they stole all of this, using it to fund her political campaign. Well, UFA, UFO. And she's in the FO phase right now. Sorry, lady. And also that kind of moral blackmail, the whole like, oh, I'm being attacked because I'm black. Guess what? That shit doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work on anybody. Who's still falling for that garbage in 2025? You cannot use your skin color as a shield for your wrongdoing. Not allowed. And nobody's really falling for it anymore. Yeah, maybe there was a time where people would. But also, what a disservice to people who are black. People are not attacked because they're black. They're not prosecuted because they're black. In the Trump administration, people are prosecuted because they are credibly accused of crimes. Now, I can't say it's always been that way. The left loves abusing power. The left, you want to talk about people being targeted on the basis of their skin color. The Democrat Party's history is targeting people on the basis of their skin color, using the justice system in unjust ways to target people on the basis of race. So if you want to have that conversation, by all means, let's have that conversation about the role that your party has played in perpetrating that kind of bigoted oppression. But in the recent era, of course, the Democrat Party continues to do that in a bunch of different iterations, including just straight up targeting people who are supportive of the other political party. In fact, a huge portion of the conversation we have to keep having on this program, because it matters a great deal, is the extent to which Democrats have been attacking Republicans using the justice system merely because they have different political preferences. The whole first Trump administration was defined by the deep state going after President Trump. The 2016 election was defined by that. The 2024 election was defined by that, as the left abused its power to attack its political opponents on the basis of literally nothing. So you want to talk about injustice, lady? Well, then talk about injustice. But in the meantime, it sounds like justice is actually coming for you. Credible accusations against you, supported by the United States Department of Justice, and now you're in the FO phase. Good luck with that. Good luck with it. But the race card, that stuff doesn't fly. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't even, there maybe, again, I think back, something almost with a sense of shame, but think back, not too long ago, like, I might have hesitated for a moment, like, is that true? Could that be the case? Is she being targeted? I don't hesitate. Not these days. Don't hesitate at all. Because you know better instinctively. You know better instinctively. And on this program, we stand up for civil rights, like for real. We stand up for civil liberties, for real. We stand up for judging people actually on the content of their character. It's your party that's advancing the skin color routine. It's disgusting. Knock it off. It's not good for your soul. So there she is, being prosecuted now. That's great. Democrats, it sounds like they've got a heap of legal trouble coming their way too. This Jeffrey Epstein disclosure stuff. The president of the United States just signed into law these Jeffrey Epstein disclosures. And remember, as he was doing it, he said, look, it's time for the American people to really get answers on all of this, which is why he's called for a full-blown Justice Department investigation into all these lefties who were tied in with Jeffrey Epstein. Remember this? This came to us last Friday. He said the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans, and they're trying to deflect from their disastrous shutdown. That's what they're trying to do right now. And so what the president is calling for here is a full-blown investigation by the Department of Justice. He wants to look in to Jeffrey Epstein's involvement with Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, JP Morgan Chase, and a lot of other institutions. And as these documents become public, chances are we're going to get some very meaningful progress when it comes to the people that he just mentioned. I want to take you into the latest because we just got big revelations yesterday. In fact, one Senate Democrat is even involved in helping us get to the bottom of this. We'll explore that. Kind of interesting stuff. As it looks like some more criminal charges could be on the way for all of these Democrats and institutions who were in bed with Jeffrey Epstein. Good. Consequences, please. I'm in the mood for some FO. It's ahead on this edition of Vince. Our thanks to our great sponsors who keep our program going. That includes C15 from Fatty 15. If you have been getting older, have you been getting older lately? Yeah, sure you have. We've all been getting older. And as you get older, you feel the impacts of age. My energy has gone down a bit, and I've tried to figure out ways to get it back, and I'm excited to share C15 from Fatty 15 with you. It's the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in more than 90 years. Fatty 15 co-founder Dr. Stephanie Van Watson discovered the benefits of C15 while working with the United States Navy. And based on studies, we do know that when our cells don't have enough C15, they can age faster. Fatty 15 can help you repair and protect age-related damage to your cells and help activate pathways in the body that repair mechanisms that support your overall wellness. Fatty 15 is science-backed, it's award-winning, it's vegan, and it's 100% pure C15. And refills are shipped right to your door. I say this because I know this, because I live this. I take it every day and I feel better for it. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help you support your long-term health and wellness, especially as you age. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/Vince. Use the code Vince at checkout. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. C15, baby. It is very good. Also very good, the Bone Charge infrared sauna blanket and the red light face mask. Ever since Bone Charge sent these products to me and my wife, Allison, we can't recommend them enough. That sauna blanket has been great for me. I've loved it. It helps with muscle recovery, detoxification, total game changer in my house. And it's very easy to use. I can just wrap myself up, let the infrared heat work its magic. And it has created for me a real difference in how I relax and rejuvenate and how I feel afterward. Allison loves her red light face mask. It's great, very impressive. She uses it to improve her skin's texture, reduce inflammation. It's created fantastic results for her. It's like having a mini spa treatment right inside the house. So look, right now is the perfect time to get these great Bone Charge products. Bone Charge holiday sale, it's going on right now. You can save a massive 25%. Just head to bonecharge, boncharge.com, and your 25% off code's automatically going to be added to your order. The sale will end on the 31st of December, okay? 31st December, 2025. So hurry, don't miss this massive chance to save big on your favorite Bone Charge products. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. The Epstein revelations continue. They do. And I was interested to see this one yesterday. I just referenced for you the president's post on Truth Social calling on the Justice Department to launch criminal investigations into Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, and JP Morgan Chase in particular. And that brings me to this report yesterday from a Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee by the name of Ron Wyden. Ron Wyden. And here's what he had yesterday, according to the New York Times. Ron Wyden is pressing for an investigation. Well, good. Trump's already doing it. Into JP Morgan Chase and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the JP Morgan Chase thing is interesting. This is Epstein's bank. It's a huge bank, of course. But it's Epstein's bank. And the bank handled, according to the reports, more than $1 billion in Jeffrey Epstein's suspicious transactions. Remember, the source of Epstein's wealth continues to be a mystery. The nature of all of the money that was flowing into him continues to be a mystery. And there's plenty of credible evidence to suggest that he may very well have been involved in a pretty extensive sexual blackmail scheme. In other words, some of the money flowing into him, flowing in order to prevent some very dark and powerful secrets from going public. $1 billion. The top Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee issued a report yesterday, Thursday, calling for an investigation into whether JP Morgan Chase deliberately underreported more than $1 billion in suspicious transactions by Epstein. The report said that the compliance failures by the bank during its 15-year relationship with Epstein were alarming, and they impeded law enforcement's ability to examine Epstein's finances, basically, and his cross-border sex trafficking organization. The report is based on unsealed court records. They shed more light on JP Morgan's financial dealings with Epstein, and it focuses on something called suspicious activity reports, SARS. Banks are required to file suspicious activity reports with the Treasury Department anytime they suspect that a financial transaction may be involved in illicit activity, such as money laundering, terrorism, sex trafficking. From 2002 to 2016, JP Morgan did file suspicious activity reports covering $4.3 million in transactions with Jeffrey Epstein. But it wasn't until after Epstein's arrest and death in 2019 that the bank reported some $1.3 billion in transactions as suspicious. 1.3. They were sitting on $1.3 billion in suspicious activity reports, stuff that they were concerned about internally, but didn't tell the government about until after Epstein died. Internal bank emails suggest JP Morgan may have waited to file those reports because it wanted to continue working with Epstein as a source of referrals for business, even after firing him as a client in 2013. Now we're getting somewhere. This is about the money, the flow of all of that money, and who it was protecting. It's a lot of money. So you have the president of the United States last week announcing an investigation into all of this. Ron Wyden is inverting things. He's now, I'm calling for an investigation. Too late, pal. It's already happening. President Trump has already commissioned the Justice Department to do this, and Pam Bondi has assigned it to the state of New York, the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, to investigate this very thing. So that's happening. Last night on the Fox News channel, Jesse Waters broke this down and said, this is a very big deal. $1 billion for a sexual blackmail, alleged sexual blackmail ring? Take a listen to Jesse's assessment, cut 7.
Trump was trying to be a gentleman, and he was going to say a lot of people's lives are going to be ruined. A lot of people will have their reputations destroyed from innuendo. And I'm sorry, but that's the way it's going to happen. Now, you're right about JP Morgan. This is out, and it's huge. So JP Morgan filed 5,000 suspicious activity reports on Epstein. $1 billion in suspicious financial wires from Jeffrey Epstein. That either one or two things is true. He is either at the center of an international sexual blackmail ring, or he's a money launderer. And JP Morgan covered it up. And the Treasury Department's covered it up because they get those reports. That's what this has always been about, a sexual blackmail ring. And that's what I'd like to find out more about.
This is so big, and it's annoying. In the chat, you're right about this. Some people pointing out, why wasn't this done before now? Because the establishment's been protecting all of this information from public disclosure and public consequence. That's why. It's as simple as that. There's a lot of people who've been in on it. A lot of people who've been in on it. You know, what's the old George Carlin thing? It's a big club, and you ain't in it. That's right. We ain't in it. We're not in the club. That club has been protecting itself until now. You know, Democrats have made a lot of hay out of the Epstein files of late. They were like, oh, we really care about that because we think it's going to expose Trump. It's not going to expose Trump. It's going to expose you. It's going to expose you. And so they're getting a lot more than they bargained for. President Trump has issued criminal investigations into this. It's his right as the president of the United States. The DOJ works for him. He's assigned them to do this. This is one of the biggest criminal enterprises of our lifetime. A lot of people abused. Let's take it down. Let's go public with all of it. And let's prosecute every last person who deserves it. So JP Morgan Chase in the hot seat now. Democrats, Ron Wyden pretending like he suddenly wants an investigation. Here's the dirty little secret. Trump's already ordered one. Which I don't even know if the New York Times bothered to tell people. Yeah, that's very good. So thank you to the president of the United States. These Democrats got way more than they bargained for. Which was very typical, very, very typical stuff from these idiot Democrats. You want an Epstein investigation? You've got an Epstein investigation. Speaking of the establishment and its abuses, we've got new revelations related to Arctic frost out overnight. Just the news with this coverage. Jim Jordan, Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio, is the latest we now know to have been spied upon by the Biden administration. That's the update today. Jim Jordan says the Biden administration was collecting his phone records over the course of 2 years. The House Judiciary Chairman, Jim Jordan, yesterday, revealing the Biden administration was spying on him. They subpoenaed his phone records for a 2-year period as a part of Arctic frost, making his records more expansive than other lawmakers. The announcement comes after recent revelations that claim that the Biden FBI did spy on the phone records of Republican members of Congress, including 8 United States senators, during its January 6th investigation. Jordan said that the Biden administration's Justice Department, the prosecutor Timothy DeRee, who worked with Thomas Windham, one of Jack Smith's top prosecutors, requested his phone records. The request sought records from January 1 of 2020 through April of 2022. They spied on 2 years of phone records. Those records didn't include the contents of Jordan's phone calls or messages, but they did include details about inbound and outbound calls, text messages, direct connect communications, and voicemail messages. Okay, I don't care how drilled down it is. I don't care how content rich it is. Jim Jordan was being spied on by the Biden administration, a sitting member of Congress who didn't know anything about it until now. And by the way, that was by design. The subpoena was also accompanied by a non-disclosure order, yet again, that claimed that notifying Jordan of the subpoena could result in, you ready? Flight from prosecution, destruction of, or tampering with evidence, intimidation of potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy to this investigation. Nope. None of those things were at risk. None of that was at risk. You had no business spying on a sitting member of Congress. Hell, you had no business spying on any American without a proper predicate that they had actually committed a crime of any kind. None whatsoever. And yet these guys were rampantly abusing their power. And if this grand jury indictment that we're expecting in January, the grand conspiracy charges, is going to capture anybody here, it should capture Jack Smith. It should capture Jack Smith for the rampant torrential abuses of power that he's guilty of as he weaponized the United States Department of Justice against Americans at an unbelievable scale, to include rather brazenly members of Congress and of the United States Senate. Now, this reminds me of something that matters here that we still haven't seen yet, though. Why is it that House Republicans are not moving right now to advance the impeachment of Judge Boasberg? Judge Boasberg, who was signing off on these spy warrants, who was signing off on these non-disclosure arrangements. Republicans in Congress, look, I know it's like pulling teeth to get lawmakers, including of your own party, unfortunately, sometimes, to be interested in the issues that matter to you and to me. But if this affects you personally, if you're being spied upon Jim Jordan, if you're being spied upon Ted Cruz, if you're being spied upon 8 United States senators, various Republican congressmen, obviously some of these guys have now come around to the point that, yes, let's impeach Judge Boasberg. Let's impose consequences on these guys. Impeach, convict, go for it. But why isn't every Republican clamoring to impose accountability? Why is it that I've got to even mention it? Why does it feel like pulling teeth just to get these guys to do this? And this gets to kind of the overarching point of so many of our programs this week. Next year, we've got the midterms. We're heading into the midterms in 2026. I desperately want Republicans to grow their margins, because while Republicans are not always on my side, Democrats are always against me. That's just true. You know that to be true. So what we want is a Republican Party that is worthy of our votes. And I'm going to work hard to make sure people do show up to vote, to try and grow these margins. But it's going to really be helpful if you can help me make a better freaking case for why voters should support you. Oh, it's a party that supports accountability. It's a party that imposes consequences on lawbreakers. It's a party that kicks out the bad actors inside of the government. And even if you don't have the votes to do it right now in Congress, you mount a mighty effort to try and make it happen. Add that accountability mission on top of the stack of things you need to do to help bring prices down in the United States, to help make housing more available by deporting illegal aliens, and by bringing healthcare costs down. You know, I mentioned on the radio show yesterday that I'm glad to see that the Trump administration is focused on bringing healthcare costs down. And I'm going to mention J.D. Vance in a moment with you because he did a great event yesterday. But I mentioned yesterday that the Trump administration is focused on bringing healthcare costs down, about healthcare affordability. And I got an email from one of our listeners. I love our listeners, but sometimes I feel like not everyone listens in detail. It's fine. You're busy. But the gentleman who emailed me was like, Vince, like, don't fall for the left's claims about affordability, and don't fall for talking about bringing healthcare costs down. Anytime the government's involved, it just makes everything more expensive. Pause. First of all, Anytime the government takes something over, it makes it more expensive. I've said that until I've been blue in the face. We've seen it happen with higher education. We've seen it happen with healthcare. The product becomes way more expensive and way shittier. That's a terrible combination. Let's not do that anymore. What I'm calling for to bring healthcare costs down is to get the government out of the freaking way, to stop the cronyism between government and the big insurance companies. So don't confuse me, and don't confuse the Trump administration's point here either. The point that these guys are making, and that I'm definitely making, is if we're going to cut costs across the board, we cut costs by getting rid of the problems that the government created in the first place. That's how we do it. We do that in the healthcare arrangement. We also do that for housing. Deport 20, 30 million, whatever number of illegals are here. Deport them from the United States of America. Stop creating additional competition for the scarce resources of a roof over your head, which drives up prices in our housing market. That was a problem created by our government that sought to abuse the American people for their own cruel advantage. We're ending government-created problems. That's how you bring these costs down. And one other thing on costs in terms of how the government has actually increased everything. The national debt's at $38 trillion. You are feeling that in the increased cost of inflation all across the economy. Stopping the government from spending money that they don't have, that's how you save money. That's how you decrease costs in the United States. So as long as the Trump administration is focused on that, I feel good about it. I like that, and I'm going to keep supporting it. Now, yesterday, we got a tale of two Washingtons. We got a tale of two Washingtons that I want you to think about. Yesterday, former Vice President Dick Cheney's funeral was happening at the National Cathedral in Washington. The establishment assembled to send him off. The establishment assembled. Yesterday, Dick Cheney's funeral drew big names, New York Post says. Biden, Harris, Maddow. President Trump and J.D. Vance, not invited. I'm not sure they wanted to go anyway. Former Vice President Dick Cheney's funeral drew a robust roster of Democrats who battled with George W. Bush's second in command during his 8 years in power. Remember that? Remember they said Dick Cheney was Darth Vader? And now among the people who were there yesterday, in the front pew, Joe Biden, Jill Biden, Kamala Harris, George W. Bush and his wife, former Vice President Mike Pence, Democrat James Carville was there, Democrat Jamie Raskin, Cosmo Kramer, the wrap-up smear lady, Nancy Pelosi was there, Anthony Fauci was there, Al Gore was there. Mark Milley, thoroughly modern Mark Milley was there at Dick Cheney's funeral. This was an assembly of the establishment. There's John Boehner, there's Mitch McConnell there, Nancy Pelosi. The establishment assembled. So the more I saw these guys all gathered together, the guys who in the end have left us with the mess we now have as a country, the more I was grateful that President Trump and Vice President Vance weren't there at all. It's a good thing, actually. There's no love lost, of course, between the Cheneys and the Trumps, but more specifically, there's no love lost between the establishment, all of the people who were gathered there yesterday, and President Trump and the people who support him. I'm perfectly content with President Trump and J.D. Vance not being there yesterday. If I had a choice, if you had a choice between which group of people would you rather spend some time with, do you actually appreciate, do you actually admire? Is it the people who are with President Trump, or is it the people who are with Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, Anthony Fauci, Mark Milley, and Rachel Maddow? I know which one I'm picking. And yesterday, J.D. Vance had a great event with a buddy of mine, Matt Boyle. Matt Boyle, you know Matt Boyle from Breitbart News? Great reporter. And J.D. Vance sat with him yesterday to do a big interview. And they talked about a bunch of things, including the people that I just referenced. They didn't mention them by name, but J.D. Vance said the old Republican Party is gone. That old Republican Party, the one that's taken our country astray, that's worked too often with Democrats and selling out our country, that's gone. And he says it's not coming back. Here's J.D. Vance, cut 8. Watch.
The American people don't want stupid wars and America's jobs going overseas and wide open borders. That is, whether intentional or not, that was the legacy of the Republican Party that came before Donald J. Trump. I'm glad the president got us away from that Republican Party. It lost, but it was also a disaster for the United States of America. Let's actually have a foreign policy where we focus on the interests of American citizens. Let's have an economic policy that's about building in the United States of America rather than shipping all of our jobs overseas and getting Wall Street enriched in the process. Let's have an economic policy that's about more self-sufficiency. I mean, I have 3 kids. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. I don't want to wake up in a country where I take my kid to the doctor and they can't get antibiotics because the antibiotics that were invented in the United States of America are manufactured in some foreign country. That is the legacy of the Republican Party that came before Donald J. Trump. We're not going back to it.
Yeah, those drugs are made in China and India nowadays, too many of them. Made in China and India. We got a really haunting reminder of that during COVID as the entire economy was brought to a screeching halt. And then suddenly there were shortages of everything. And we're like, why is that? Well, it's because we're importing the entire planet and we're not making things in the United States, sold out by an establishment in Washington over the course of these last decades. J.D. Vance says that Republican Party is not coming back. If we can continue to vote for rational pro-American thinking, like the kind of thinking and power that's demonstrated by President Trump and J.D. Vance, then we're going to keep improving as a country. So we want to improve the Republican Party, keep voting for an ideology that actually advances our genuine American interests. Good for J.D. Vance. In fact, the new paradigm here and the new focus on the stuff that matters to Americans is still stunning Washington. They don't know what to do with this. The Democrats who were negotiating with President Trump during the government shutdown were stunned to hear that President Trump is trying to force them to fix the healthcare system. They thought it was a talking point that President Trump wouldn't tackle at all. Vice President Vance said, oh no, President Trump literally offered to fix it, and Democrats didn't know what to do with it. Here's what he told Matt Boyle yesterday.
When we got to the serious stuff, and they said, we really want to address the healthcare problem confronting the American people, the president said, well, absolutely. We agree. We want to address the healthcare problem confronting the American people. In fact, you people screwed it up with Obamacare, the Unaffordable Care Act, and now you're coming to us saying, let's fix it. Great. Let's fix it. And then they said, I think they were kind of caught off guard, and they're like, well, but we want the fix before we're willing to open up the government. And the president was like, that's like 3 days from now. You want us to fix American health care in the next 3 days, and unless you do it, you're going to shut down the government? How about we open up the government and then work together to fix American health care? And of course, we know the history. They rejected it. They shut down the government. But I don't want to get ahead of the president, Matt, because we had a very, very good meeting in the Oval Office yesterday. I think that we have a great health care plan coming together. I think that it's going to get Republican and Democrat support.
I love that. I love that. Did you hear the scoop there from the Vice President of the United States? He said Wednesday, as he's saying this on Thursday, we had a great conversation yesterday. So Wednesday of this week, there was a meeting at the White House that consisted at least of Vice President Vance and others, I presume the President of the United States, where they were discussing what he said is a great health care plan. I'm not getting ahead of the President of the United States. I'm not going to do that, but we've got something great to offer. And he says, I think we can get support from Republicans and Democrats. Now, that last element, getting support from Democrats, that may be overly optimistic. Democrats have been perfectly comfortable with the crony relationship they have with the insurance companies. I doubt they're going to break free of that spell anytime soon. But if Republicans want to win big in the midterms, these are the kinds of issues that they need to be doggedly focused on. So they should follow the lead of the president and the vice president on this. By the way, speaking of conservatives, it's not a secret that conservatives have been fighting with each other at times pretty aggressively in debates over such things as how many H-1B visas do we have in the United States, or what should the United States' involvement with Israel be, and how much armaments should we send to Ukraine? These are very real debates that happen on the right. And by the way, at their best, it's a very healthy thing to do. Like, the right is engaged in far more constructive conversations than anything the left has to offer. The left is not interested in debate. In fact, if you say something nice about Donald Trump on the left, like John Fetterman's been doing, then they're going to look to primary you, throw you out of office entirely. They're not interested in diversity, especially of opinion, not on the left. Meanwhile, on the right, like, we have these real debates. J.D. Vance brought this up yesterday, and he said, look, this is great. It's perfectly fine to have these debates. But in the end, we should remember who the real destructive adversary is. Here's the vice president.
We have to remember that we have a lot more in common than we do not in common, and that the disagreements that animate the Republican Party, while they matter and they're important, I think these debates should happen. They should happen in podcasts, and they should happen in the media. They should happen on the op-ed pages. So I think my attitude is, let these debates play out. But don't let the debates that we're having internally blind us to the fact that we are up against a radical leftist movement that murdered my friend a couple of months ago, and that would throw many people in the Trump administration in prison, not for doing anything illegal, but for not following the far left's agenda. That is the real opponent here. A political movement in this country that has no animating principle, that has no agenda for the American people. Their sole obsession is to take down Donald Trump and anybody who helped Donald Trump govern. Focus on the enemy, have our debates, but focus on the enemy so that we can win victories that matter for the American people. That's my message.
J.D. Vance, again, right, because Democrats don't have a positive vision for the country. They have nothing positive to sell you. It's why they are constantly trying to sell you on a negative case against President Trump. It's just Trump derangement syndrome all the time, every day, from trying to get him thrown off of ballots, get him arrested, in some cases at their most radical, to assassinate the president of the United States. And to take up arms against people like Charlie Kirk. J.D. Vance referencing his friend who was just assassinated. He's, of course, talking about Charlie Kirk, gunned down on September 10th of this year by a radical leftist who wanted to silence not just Charlie, but the views he espoused, and to intimidate the people who share those views. Of course, we're not intimidated. We've continued. In fact, the extent to which we have these conversations has only grown since Charlie's assassination. The left did not achieve what it set out to do there, but they continue to be on the march. And this is why, we started today with these seditious Democrats who have put a video together encouraging the United States military to disobey the lawful orders of the commander-in-chief. Oh, we said illegal. No, you literally meant just disobey Trump, because you consider Trump to be, well, a disaster. You hate Trump. You hate him. Everything is animated by your hatred for Trump instead of a positive vision for the country. You have nothing worth buying. So you attack the other guys. It's as straightforward as you can possibly get. J.D. Vance is right. Remember that. Have our debates. We should. But in the end, remember who the adversaries are. All right. Before I go today, I did have a video. I think I promised it to you, although it's not. It's just so goofy. The most flatulent member of Congress has announced that he is running for the governor of California. Eric Flipping Swalwell is, as you know, a disaster. He appeared on a very low-rated show last night called Jimmy Kimmel, which is supposed to be a comedy show, and I guess this is what they consider comedy. Eric Swalwell is announcing that he's now running for governor of what he accidentally, I think, because he's an idiot, referred to as the country of California.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. I love California. It's the greatest country in the world. Greatest country in the world. But that's why it pisses me off to see Californians running through the fields where they work from ICE agents or troops in our streets.
It's horrifying.
It's horrifying.
Notice he's doing exactly what I just said they're doing. He's running against Trump on the basis of lies. He says that Donald Trump is hurting innocent people. No, Donald Trump is saving California from the destruction the Democrats have brought us.
Or cancer research
horrifying.
Being canceled. It's awful to look at. And our state, this great state, needs a fighter and a protector, someone who will bring prices down, lift wages up.
That's called Donald Trump.
And we can say that we're the fourth largest economy in the world, and we are, and I love to brag about that. But what does that mean if you can't afford to live here? So
Democrats made it that way. Why is California the most expensive state in the country for gasoline? Democrats. Can you believe that the top choices for California are Katie Mashed Potatoes Porter and Eric Fang Fang Swalwell? Those are the options right now in California. The state that gave us Ronald Reagan. When President Trump says, make America great again, that's what he's talking about. Bring back the Ronald Reagan state, not the Katie Porter and Eric Swalwell state. What a complete disaster. I've got the big national radio show coming up today, The Vince Show. You can check out your local listings at thevinceshow.com or join us on rumble.com/Vince. A programming note for you. It's Thanksgiving week next week. I will be spending my Thanksgiving week with my family, but we're not leaving you without content. I'm going to have a bunch of stuff for you next week. But I hope no matter what you're doing and no matter what your circumstances are, that you have an absolutely wonderful Thanksgiving with people you love. And you should, because we all should do this, lift up a prayer for your country and for all of the blessings of your life, whatever those blessings might be. They're blessings from God. I am grateful for them. I am grateful for you. And I can't wait till you and I are back together again soon. Thank you, as always, the best audience anywhere. Appreciate you. I'll talk to you again soon. Have a very happy Thanksgiving. Up next, who do we got today on Rumble? It's Crowder.